Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're exploring something that literally blew my mind when I first learned about it. We're talking about the hidden machinery of human behavior, how our brains create habits, and most importantly, how we can actually change them. We're going to unpack what is known as the first law of behavior change, which is simply this: make it obvious. Let's dive right in, because before we can build new positive routines, we really have to understand the incredible, and sometimes dangerous, autopilot system running quietly in the background of our own minds.
To really grasp this hidden machinery, listen to this. It's a crazy story. So there's this woman who had spent years working as a paramedic. She shows up at a family gathering, takes one look at her father-in-law, and gets visibly concerned. She tells him, "I don't like the way you look." Now her father-in-law, who was actually feeling perfectly fine, joked right back, "Well, I don't like your looks either." But she wasn't having it. She insisted he go to the hospital immediately. And thank goodness she did, because a few hours later, that exact same man was undergoing life-saving surgery for a major arterial blockage. He was at immediate risk of a massive heart attack and could have died. But wait, he hadn't had a single medical test at the party. So what did the paramedic actually see?
Well, the incredible answer here is that the human brain is, at its very core, a prediction machine. When major arteries are obstructed, the body naturally focuses on sending blood to critical organs, pulling it away from the surface of the skin. This subtly changes the pattern of blood distribution in the face. After years of working with heart failure patients, the paramedic's brain had unknowingly learned to recognize this highly specific pattern on sight. She couldn't even consciously explain what she noticed in his face. She just knew something was terribly wrong. Her brain was continuously analyzing her surroundings, highlighting relevant cues, and sorting through tiny details completely under the radar.
And this isn't just a medical thing. It happens across all kinds of high-stakes professions. Take Lieutenant Commander Michael Riley, a military analyst during the Gulf War. He saved an entire battleship when he ordered a missile shot down. But here is the truly crazy part. On the radar, that enemy missile looked exactly like a friendly plane from their own fleet. I mean, it was traveling at the exact same speed, flying at the same altitude. It looked absolutely identical in nearly every respect. Yet he made the right call on pure intuition. Even his superior officers couldn't explain how he did it. But the truth is, with enough practice, your brain picks up on the cues that predict certain outcomes without you consciously thinking about it at all.
So the absolutely crucial point here is this. You are much more than just your conscious self. We vastly underestimate how much our brains and bodies do entirely without our conscious direction. Just think about it for a second. You don't tell your hair to grow, or your lungs to breathe, or your stomach to digest. Your body handles all of this on autopilot. Take hunger, for example. You don't necessarily have to see food to realize it's time to eat. Your appetite is governed non-consciously by these complex feedback loops, hormones and chemicals circulating through your body. You just suddenly know you're hungry. Learning is happening all along the way, and your ability to automatically notice these relevant cues is the very foundation for every single habit you have.
But, okay, here is where we run into a pretty major issue. While this autopilot feature is incredibly useful for survival and efficiency, it's also exactly what makes habits dangerous. As your habits form, your actions come under the direction of your automatic and non-conscious mind. They become virtually invisible to you. You fall into old patterns before you even realize what's happening. You might cover your mouth every time you laugh, or apologize before asking a simple question, and you have absolutely no idea you're doing it until someone points it out.
To show you just how extreme this autopilot can get, picture this hilarious, but honestly terrifying, story about a retail clerk. She was instructed to cut up empty gift cards after customers had used up their balances. One day, she cashed out several customers in a row with these gift cards. When the next person walked up, the clerk took the customer's actual, valid credit card, swipped it, picked up her scissors, and just cut it entirely in half. She did the whole shebang entirely on autopilot, completely non-conscious of her actions, before finally looking up at the stunned customer and realizing what she had just done. The cues that spark our habits become so common that they are essentially invisible to us.
Which brings us to a really fundamental rule. If our habits are literally invisible to us, running totally on autopilot, we can't exactly expect to improve them as they are, right? Therefore, we must begin the process of behavior change with awareness. Before we can effectively build new habits, we need to get a firm handle on our current ones. It sounds super simple, but it is deeply challenging, precisely because these habits are rooted in the non-conscious mind. As the psychologist Carl Jung famously said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate."
So what's a real-world solution to this? We'll look at how the Japanese railway system tackles this exact problem. They use a fascinating system called pointing and calling. If you ever ride a train in Tokyo, you'll notice the conductors actively pointing at different objects and calling out commands. When approaching a signal, they point right at it and say, "Signal is green." As the train pulls into the station, they point at the speedometer and call out the exact speed. They point at timetables. Even platform workers point at the edge of the platform and declare, "All clear." Every single detail is identified, pointed at, and named aloud. Now sure, it might look or sound a little silly to an outside observer, but let me tell you, it works incredibly well. It literally forces the brain out of autopilot. It raises the level of awareness from a non-conscious habit to a highly conscious level. By engaging their eyes, hands, mouth, and ears, operators are far more likely to notice problems before something actually goes wrong. And the real-world data completely backs this up. The MTA subway system in New York City adopted a modified version of this, a point-only system, and within just 2 years, incidences of incorrectly berthed subways fell by a staggering 57%. That is a massive impact. All right, let's bring this down to the micro level, into our own daily routines. Because the more automatic a behavior becomes, the less likely we are to consciously think about it. We just naturally assume the next time will be exactly like the last time. Because failures in performance are so often attributable to a simple lack of self-awareness, we actually need a point-and-call system for our personal lives. We need a mechanism to catch those bad habits that sneak up on us while we just aren't paying attention. And that brings us to our core practical tool for this, the Habits Scorecard. It's a simple exercise designed purely to generate awareness.
Here is exactly how you create your own scorecard. It's super easy. Step 1, you're going to make a list of your daily habits, starting from the very moment you wake up. Step 2, you'll look at each behavior and ask yourself, is this a good habit, a bad habit, or a neutral habit? If it's a good habit, write a plus sign next to it. If it's bad, write a minus sign. If it's neutral, write an equal sign. Now, listen, the absolute most important rule here is that as you create this scorecard, there is no need to change anything at first. The goal is simply to notice what is going on. Observe your actions entirely without judgment or internal criticism. Don't blame yourself for the faults and don't overpraise yourself for the successes. Just observe.
Let's look at a really concrete example of how this plays out in real life. Let's say it's your morning routine. Waking up, well, that gets an equal sign, neutral. Turning off the alarm, also neutral, another equal sign. Checking your phone right away? For many of us, starting the day immediately scrolling social media is a negative, so that gets a minus sign. Going to the bathroom, neutral. Taking a shower, positive, so a plus sign. Brushing your teeth, positive. You just carry on exactly like this, logging everything, putting on deodorant, getting dressed, making tea. You are essentially generating a full inventory of your daily autopilot behaviors. Now, right about now, you might be wondering, well, how exactly do I define good or bad? And honestly, the truth is, there are technically no good or bad habits, there are only effective habits. All habits serve you in some way, even the ones with negative long-term consequences, which is exactly why you keep repeating them. Therefore, the marks you give a habit depend entirely on your specific situation and your goals. For example, eating a bagel with peanut butter every morning might be a bad habit if you are strictly trying to lose weight. But if you're a weightlifter trying to bulk up and add muscle, that exact same behavior might be a very good habit. It all depends on what you are working toward. Categorize them by how they benefit you in the long run. And hey, if you're going through this exercise and you find yourself really struggling to catch those bad habits in the moment, which happens to all of us, here's a powerful extra tip. Try literally employing pointing and calling in your own life. When you feel the urge to do something you know you shouldn't, say out loud the action you are thinking of taking and what the actual outcome will be. For instance, you could say aloud, "I'm about to eat this delicious cookie, but I really don't need it. Eating it will cause me to gain weight and hurt my health." Hearing your bad habits spoken aloud makes the consequences seem so much more real. It adds weight to the action, and a lot of times it stops you from mindlessly slipping into an old routine. To wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final and honestly very powerful question to ask yourself when evaluating your scorecard. If you're ever in doubt about how to rate a habit, pause and ask yourself, does this behavior help me become the type of person I wish to be? Does this habit cast a vote for my desired identity? Because habits that reinforce your desired identity are almost always good, while those that conflict with it are usually bad. Keep this question in mind. The process of behavior change always starts with awareness. Use the habit scorecard, bring those automatic actions up to the surface, and take the first critical step toward designing the life and the identity you actually want.